Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, almost afternoon for me. I still have my coffee though, classic. um, Everyone, welcome to today's session. I'm so excited to have you here, Anthony, and talking about balancing our personal brands and our B2B brand voices. As you know, people are kind of trickling in. Would love to know where you're listening in from, and then also what your current kind of balance is. Are you trying to build your personal brand? Are you trying to build a B2B brand voice? Are you currently managing both?
Yeah.
Kind of cover how to really establish both brands and then how they can work together without, conflicting against each other. They should be working together, complementary, and just some tips, some examples. So, Anthony, really excited to have you here. And also, I'm just going to walk through kind of deeper dive into what today's agenda is going to look like. So, we're first going to start with kind of building your B2B brand, talking about what kind of legacy you want to leave, aligning and with your audience, and then moving into a personal brand voice, professionalism versus personality, your voice versus your vibe, and then moving into the arts of the blend, the power of two of your personal brand and your B2B brand working together. Going to touch on kind of some, should we follow this? Should we not? Talking about trend chasing and buzzwords, AI, and then just some examples of both B2B and personal branding voices and content examples weaved in. So lots of stuff for you guys today. And Anthony, I'll kick it over to you, our comment king.
Yes, exactly. First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be able to touch on these subjects. So, as you said, my name is Anthony, as you see on the screen, Anthony Morel. I thought it would be cool to like separate the two, the personal and the professional, since we are speaking on both today. So, just a little overview of my professional. I've been 10 plus years in marketing. I've been here a long time, and I've marketed from like a local church to local grocery stores, all the way up to where I am now in global payments industry. I've done B2B and B2C, so I have a vast amount of just diverse perspectives. Um, Personally, I'm right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm coming from Atlanta, Georgia right now. I'm born and raised. I'm a big lover of sports, and I love people. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know that because I'll connect with you. If you follow me for a while, I'll chat with you. And I'm a big family guy. I have two boys, so my house is loud. My house is very loud, and I know how to manage and listen a lot of different voices. Um, Extra thing is I am Comment King. That is my name officially on LinkedIn, primarily because it came about that so many people were saying I was always showing up all in comments, being so visible in comments, that I took it on. I actually started to build my personal brand through comments before I even started to post my own content. So that's why I started. That's why I still am. Like I said, if you follow me, you'll definitely see me in the comments.
Yeah, we're going to touch on kind of comment marketing today and also responding to that in real time. But I think people are, kind of overlook comments, and also, especially in the B2B space, maybe some brands are still kind of stuck in the congrats and the kind of buttoned up or, just flat, comments. And I think
Yeah.
that you've really shown that you can show up with your personality, you can show up, and it's a great way to build your community without, maybe before you fully figured out what your voice is and what your goals are, building your personal brand. It's a great place to just start building community. So love that.
Full on agree. Full on agree. All right. So we are going to start off with our building our B2B brand voice. All right. So we're going to get into, if you are with us, I want to know, hey, who runs your B2B brand account? And the point of this is because we realize that we could have a such vast amount of perspectives, right? We can have single founders, we can have people that have a full agency that they work with. It could just be you, where you are the operations, you are the whole marketing team, or you could be in my situation where I have my personal brand, but I work in house, so I do have a somewhat of a creative team that I get to interact with and work with.
Yeah. I think it's important to find these differentiations because, for example, a single founder, might have a different kind of workflow than a social team, right? We
For
understand that
sure.
social teams with agencies, you might have kind of more hoops to jump through, more people to, approve that content and review before it really goes out. So there can be kind of these hurdles that you have to go through. But yeah, it's important to understand who runs it and also yeah who kind of owns that voice. I think it helps just kind of find your direction a little bit more, so let us know.
Yeah, please let us know because as I go through, I'll definitely touch on the different perspectives. I think it is important to try to give you some of that value based on your perspective and where you are.
Yeah.
So please drop it in the chat where you're listening from, and let's do this. All right. So as y'all are even chewing on that or still dropping it in, I want to talk about just establishing that brand voice. All right. There are a couple things I like to think about when we talk about a brand voice. And we have a couple of those things here. Characteristics, right? Who are you at your core? And when I say at your core, it is what is your business at its core, right? So when you think about we want to be an educator, right? At the core of us, we want to educate. So we will put out posts and content that is primarily educating, and you can add your own twist to that. But at the core of it is always that piece of education. And so also we think about tone, our language. This is something I am very intentional about on B2B and my personal side as well, because I know that being comment king, my tone, the way you communicate to people speaks who you are. And so as you react to comments, as you build your voice, it is important that you are intentional with the language that you use, not just in comments, but also as your posts as well. Um, POV, I think this is something that we should lean into more. It's something that is overlooked. A lot of times when we think B2B, we think like, oh, these are my little, my bulleted differentiators. But no, I feel like it's a lot more than just your value propositions. I feel like if you looked at yourself and you looked at your competitors, looked at where they may be not filling the gap, you may have that, right? So you need to like take the time to do the research as far as like building that B2B voice because you may have a perspective that is not out there. And I personally love to always believe that there is a audience for every voice. It really is. We just have to be able to step outside of the I don't have enough to say or thinking on I don't have anything to give, which I personally actually went through on my own as well.
Mm.
Another one, even Annie touched on just a couple minutes as we started was responses. How you show up in your comments, your DMs, and your mentions. I actually think this is a missed one because not a lot of brands actually reply to their comments. You can go to a brand and you see all thousands of comments and they're just missed. Now I understand like there may be the workload could be heavy as far as like replying to all of those, every single one. But I think that is a connection point for you to not only build your voice, but a connection point to your community. Because I personally on LinkedIn, I follow New Balance, the CEO of New Balance. He followed me back. There have been comments that I've left on posts that he's shared and stuff, and he's like commenting back. And I feel like I feel like I know him just from that. Now, granted, he's a CEO like of New Balance. I probably won't don't know if I ever reach him, but I've been made to feel like he's reachable. I've been made to feel like, oh man, I feel a little bit closer to New Balance because of the way he's connected with me in the comments.
Yep.
So make sure you like when you're building that brand voice, don't overlook just replying to comments and looking at what people are saying. It's an easy way to get feedback on your brand as well.
100%. I think when we talk about just the importance of trust too,
Mm,
showing up in those channels and directly responding is just another way, of course, building connection, but also building that trust of the brand is, willing to show up for you and just create that extra level of trustworthiness and reliability.
yeah.
Yeah, so definitely not something that we should overlook and a really powerful channel.
Right. Yeah, and this is exactly. I know there was a trend, the hill I will die on. If you cannot be social on social, then like how does your
Right.
presence really matter to me?
Yeah.
Like, all right, here are some brands that I feel like are actually doing it really, really well. Now, some of the brands I understand like are big, so they have big budgets and things like that as far as content, and they may have very big creative teams. But if you go to Adobe, and I'm sure maybe you've seen them, you've seen their like creators sharing their stuff. But if you go down their actual feed, which I was very impressed by, is that all you see is people.
Mm.
You see people after people because either they're creating an experience or they're using the people that use their product to put them out there. It's not ever necessarily talking about their product directly, but it's who they've connected with. So I thought that was very impressive, especially in an age where we're looking at everything so automated, everything so AI heavy. So the fact that they're using more community and more of their creators that actually use their product is actually countercultural, right? And so that I feel like they must have a great like just partnership program or influencer program. And then the next one actually kind of spoke on a little bit is New Balance. They use a lot of people as well. They use creative communities, and I've started to see those with the brands that do this really well. They use creative communities. They're using their employees
Mhm.
as advocates. You can tell they have series and campaigns where they have actual quotes and actual videos with their employees kind of showing out their culture, showing in their community. I feel like this is very essential because this is where you get a sense of what this brand is about, right? Because we always talk about when a brand speaks up about something or when they don't speak about something, you get a feel of the culture based on how they show up, even just through their content.
Absolutely. And then, like you touched on of the employees, I mean, obviously we'll touch on this in the personal branding side, but how the employees talk about the business and how the employees are involved in the business beyond just their day in and day out. Are they connecting back with the community? Are
Yeah.
they networking and going to events and beyond just the in office or the 9 to 5? Do they feel proud to work for this place?
Yeah, right on, spot on. Because I even have, I mean, you really are, because as I've built my, and this is just a side story, guys. As I've built my personal brand, it's actually helped when I engage with the corporate brand that I work for, right?
Mhm.
Because now I'm actually boosting their visibility, and it actually shows that they actually allow their employees as well to have some creative freedom, right? Everything's not bottlenecked, and that just speaks to the culture and some of the freedom that comes in that corporation.
Yeah.
All right, audience and expectations. So I wanted to touch on this because, as we all know, we probably shouldn't be on every single channel. I do believe in being where your audience is, and also do believe in creating content that is geared to that audience on that platform. Because something you do have to realize, you might not have the same audience on every single platform. That can very well maybe, especially if you're jumping from LinkedIn to a TikTok or a LinkedIn to an Instagram, the vibe is completely different, and the generations may be different as far as who you're reaching. So I think being aware of the voice and the audience that you're trying to speak to is highly important per platform. I definitely believe in also showing up on the platform that is that is beneficial, right? You don't have to show up on every single platform. So I do think it's important to kind of gauge where your audience is and who they are per platform. I also believe in experiment with guardrails, taking creative risks. I do this um in-house on the corporate band through my comments. Honestly, some of the comments have a twist of my voice with the brand, and that's speaking to some of that creative freedom that I have. But it's become more human. How Annie was saying, going away from just the congrats, right? So we have different lines. It's like, congrats, I see you're doing great. I see you did these 3, 4, 5 different certifications. It's like we know they're important, and we're showing them that, hey, we see you interacting with us, and you as an individual are important. You're not just a partner. You're not just the company, but you're actually important as an individual as well. So I think making that differentiality is super important. And as you build content, guys, and I've experienced this, is expectations. You set expectations based on what you build, what you continuously build. You bring an expectation. Now, sometimes that can come with pressure because you started to build something. Now it's like, oh, okay, well, I have to keep this vibe up, right? I have to keep this kind of brand up, right? I have to keep obviously this voice up. So there's an expectation that becomes built within your brand as you continue to be consistent. Some of the ones I found that were really well, obviously Nike. Nike's actually one of my favorite brands, so it was like an automatic call out for me. Um, Obviously Nike has been around a very long time, but they have an expectation, right? You know them being connected to sports, so automatically you expect them to talk about their product as far as their shoes. You expect them to connect with sports, the big events, big games. So this one in the middle actually is Canva, and I know Canva is hugely popular, right? A lot of creators use Canva, but see what they did here. They simply know their audience. They use pieces that they know marketers use. In general, most marketers use some piece of these: the headphones, the water bottle, the bags, or whether you're going to an event, whether you're honestly at home. They know their audience. They know that they are speaking to marketers, they are speaking to creators, and these are the commonalities that they see in the marketers. Which this post honestly by numbers went off. Um, and that just speaks to like them knowing the commonalities between them and their audience, right? So they've tied themselves to their audience very strongly. This one over here is Notion. It's AI, and we expect them to talk about the agents they're building, the new products and tools that they put out. And if you go down their feed, they do talk about their product, but not just in a way of I'm selling this product. It's how am I developing this product? How can you use this product? How can it be integrated into your everyday business life? So I brought these people out because they have obviously the vibe of their audience, but also they're meeting the expectation as well of their audience.
Yeah, I think what both of them do so well is, like you called out, of talking with their audience and also making it, a we are coming to you, we're working for you. It's not like you have to invest in a whole new system and learn it. It's
Right. Yeah.
they're showing that if you use Canva, if you use Notion, it is going to be synchronous in your life. It's going to be, kind of a no-brainer fit. And I think that's what they do well by incorporating and talking to their audience in, okay, my ideal workday. Like, obviously, they're not saying Canva, like, shouting it out, but they're subtly saying, this is part of your day to day. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's get to defining your personal brand.
The fun stuff.
The fun stuff. Yes, it is the fun stuff. It's like,
No, not that B2B branding is not. Let me
I
make
mean,
that very clear.
let's
And
be
I think
honest.
that's I think that's what's really cool about today's era of marketing is that B2B brands are kind of, tearing down those walls of what they are expected to be,
Yeah.
and really, allowing, because personal branding and because, more brands are taking risks, it's allowing for kind of that creative freedom, like you said. So, yeah, let's let's dive into it though.
Yeah. So defining your personal brand. I have a couple. We have a couple things listed out here that that help you intersect and like define your brand. So a couple of those things: lived experiences, your values, your unique perspectives, right? And then on the other side is what you do, your expertise, your professional journey, your industry insight. Um, the thing is, I said a little bit earlier that every voice has an audience. And what this comes from, it comes from those lived experiences. I know personally that sometimes we think our lived experiences are so just us that people like won't connect with it, right? But so often when we take that, that chance to be transparent or put it out there, we'll learn we found this new group and we connected with these new people because wow, they've had some of the same experiences, but
Mhm.
you have a different perspective on that experience. And so that's where your backgrounds come in, your values come in, your stage of life comes in, where you are as far as generationally comes in. Each one of us has a unique just view and unique standpoint as far as how we got where we are and where we are now. So I think taking that and using that, in your own words, of course, is pivotal in building your personal brand because it is bringing visibility and traction to yourself.
Yeah. I think what you said about the stage of life is really important just because, when we were talking yesterday or 2 days ago,
Mhm.
you called out, how you being a father has really just changed your voice. And, I think that's, maybe something that I can't relate to directly, obviously, but it's something that, I can resonate with and be like, oh, that's super interesting. But it allows you then to show up and, connect with other parents who are kind of making fun of what their kids say to them and how their kids talk to
Yes.
them. But that's, something that I can also relate to maybe of like, because I've babysat before, different things. So it doesn't have to be the same stage of life for people to connect, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
um, yeah, that different, unique perspective is really crucial.
1,000%. That's speaking on kids. I like you said, I am a dad, and I have put out some dad content that has become integrated in my I guess my brand. But through that, I've noticed even a large part of my audience, they're like they have kids, right? And so I can connect with them through parenting. I can connect with them through that commonality, and then it goes into, oh, what do you do, right? It doesn't just stay at I'm a digital marketer. Hey, I do email, I do social, but it's like we actually individually connect, and then it moves into something else.
100%. Yeah, because they're not just siloed, right? Like, yeah, Ariana saying becoming a mom has changed my voice. I've become more grounded, learned my time management. I love that. Like, it's not just a completely separate world from your work life, right? Like, no, it's
Right.
same with blending tools and things into your day to day. Like, all of these things are integrated and have these intersections. So, yeah, love that.
These are I hate to feel like I'm doing a self promo here, but uh, that's literally what I thought as I took pictures of these.
It's okay. I have some
Um,
promos myself coming up. So,
it's I mean, no better way to show this than I'm actually doing it, right? And so here on the right, I got the invitation to do a marketer spotlight, which I feel like is more on my professional side, my career side. But I posted that on LinkedIn, right? So it shows the dynamic is what I really want to say is because like you have your professional and your personal, but like you're like Annie just said, you're not siloed, right? You're not just a professional, you're not just your position, or you're not just a parent. You're all of these things, which I like as far as my personal brand, I like to show how dynamic that is, right? So I show like I said, the spotlight, but then I over here, I'm calling people out. Like, and this is a part of this is a part of my personality. Um I'm saying right here, the one on the bottom right here was actually the first time I've gotten negative traction. And I had to like, whoa, like I had to do some almost some customer care because some people felt like really called out when but then the other one up here probably needed a hug. It was a trend and went and posted on LinkedIn, but I was like, still needed that hug because like posting content does not like didn't solve the problem, but it was funny. And I love to be funny. I love to be silly. That's a part of my personal brand. But at the same time, like I said over here, I do my professional postings as well because I want to show both sides. I want to show the intellect, but also the silly guy.
Mhm. Yeah, I think what you said with the first post of like stop eating like a 4-year-old people, that's kind of the take when you include kind of that, not necessarily dark, but just that kind of like raw humor.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people maybe aren't gonna respect it or be like, why are you? But but for the people that do get it and laugh at it, those, that's what matters. Like, it's not going to always resonate with every single person who comes across it, but for people who are like, oh, that's super funny, that allows for that deeper level of remembrance, and like, oh, this guy's funny, and has confidence enough to show up in his voice and with humor. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely put it out there. That's, um, so just continuing on your personal brand, and just kind of defining voice and vibe. Um, Kind of listing out voice, because they are not the same. Your voice is your consistent narrative, kind of those themes you stand for. And I know as I like developed my personal brand myself, it was me looking at crossing over into content pillars. So this is actually how I started to do my personal brand. I had to actually use some of my skills from what I do in-house to cross over into my personal brand and think, okay, like what am I going to post about? Right? What things do I truly believe in that I know they won't change, right? Because I don't like to post about something that I'm like, oh, down the line, I'm not gonna stand on that or truly believe in that. And so themes, content pillars, I have three or four. I truly encourage you to have content pillars because it will help you with questions that may come up like, oh, should I post this? Should I not post this? There's some bits of content that I've created, and I was like, I don't know. But then I look at my contributors, I'm like, it really don't stand necessarily with the value, so I'm not gonna put that out there. And I also think about that even with comments and the content I interact with. So even to that degree, I've seen some, man, just hilarious memes, but they don't line up with my values. So therefore, sometimes I don't even comment or react to them because I don't want that attached to me. So just being consistent with that, with what you post, your comments, so you can have the full, personal brand, and people really know that this is what I stand on and what I represent. Now, your vibe is your emotional energy. This is my vibe is always in the comments. My voice is definitely more so my post. My vibe is in in the comments because I'm usually supporting people, hyping people up, and that's what I am. I'm a big. I think that ties into like me being a family guy is just like the community. I want to lift people up, um, and I think people are doing great things out there, and I feel like they should know that. A lot of people doubt that. So I feel like that's vibe is truly in the comments, and my voice is more so my formatted hook and nail biter that I do with my posts. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's integrity. You should
Yeah,
build. I believe you should build with integrity for sure. I use this one. Go ahead, Andy.
oh, no, no, go ahead.
Oh, um, I use this one. Actually, I put it back up here. Probably need a hug. When it posted on LinkedIn, still need a hug. It's definitely more so a vibe. And I see Andy drop something in. I actually did see this one. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, from my side, I mean, both are, I think, the first one, whereas I'm not having a professional call out, it's being aware that people are talking about personal branding on LinkedIn can be cringy, right? Like,
Mhm.
people
Right.
outside of the marketing space, or friends that are on Instagram or whatever, or even just, word of mouth, or your friends be like, oh, that's kind of the overall um, vibe, is that it's like, oh, posting on LinkedIn is cringy. But, I turned that into like, well, it can be cringy because I'm still building it and there's the messy middle, but like,
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm having fun with it. I found it fun because I like to create. I like to find memes on Pinterest, and like, that's why I'm happier than you, because I'm having fun with it, and I don't need your
Not happier
approval
than you.
stamp. And then the second one is definitely more of my vibe of, I'm have a dog, he's always in my lap or behind me in meetings. And like, if, again, my voice is there, but this is kind of the vibe of like, if you're gonna hop on a meeting with me, 90% of the time, I'm gonna have my dog in my lap, and Ernie's gonna
Yeah.
show up, say hi. And that's the vibe that I want to leave. I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to know that if you have a pet or a child in your meeting, um, and and on camera, then like that's totally cool too. It's okay to show up wherever you are, if you have kids, if you have pets.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I want to leave of, you don't always have to be, I mean, obviously now I have a little bit more of a professional background and
Yeah.
my sweatshirt, right? But you can do both. You can have both of these kind of vibes and personalities, and we'll kind of get into why you shouldn't really like stick yourself into one box.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, when I seen that, the reason that grabbed my attention is because immediately I'm like, she has on the headphones. You see the background. I'm like, she's at home. She works from home, right?
Yeah,
Like that speaks to everyone that works from home. Like you're not going to have always have a perfect setting when you're
yeah,
at home because you have so many things going on at home. So that instantly like grabbed me. I'm like, oh yeah, I work from home too. Like,
yeah.
hey Annie.
I didn't even make that connection, but that's so true that it connects with people who work from home. Yeah.
Annie was vibing. A couple misconceptions that could be honestly holding you back that could be out there on social um, is when we think of professionalism, right? A lot of us still think of professionalism as the button up, the corporate brand talk, which I understand deeply because I've been corporate pretty much my whole career, and so I've done a lot of the buttons ups and ties and speaking, the boardroom meetings, and the truth is like it's just not true. It's not That's not professionalism, right? I feel like showing up with your intellect, which you can show with your intellect in a hoodie or a tie, honestly, especially if you work from home, it's not the lack of personality that makes you professional. It's actually how your composure of your personality that makes you professional. Integrating the intellect and the personality makes you more dynamic and show up as a professional very, very well. The next one here is personal brands must compete with professional brands. Obviously, not true, right? They don't have to be siloed.
Mhm.
Your professional brand can actually boost your personal brand and vice versa, which we'll talk about just in a little bit as far as that blend. But even on my own personal journey, like I said, my personal brand that has been building allows me to incorporate with the corporate brand I run and give them more visibility, right? And then as people go to them and they see that I manage and do these things and create on this account, they also give visibility back to me. And so there's that blend where they can talk to each
Yeah.
other. You don't have to choose one lane. The one thing I do want to mention that I didn't write on here is the fact of if you are, and I'm speaking to people that are in my situation, if you are in house, like if corporate and you're building your personal brand, make sure they know, right? Make sure it's not like I'm trying to do this or hide this. So that goes back to building with integrity, right? So even me, like personally, I've connected with my manager. I spoke before I did things, just in the terms of like, hey, I don't want you to think I'm trying to leave, but I am building myself as a professional, and they were in full agreement with that. But I think having that transparency is very good. So they're not like, people are like scoping out your profile and looking, trying to see what you're doing in some weird way. So that integrity is a very good thing to have. That way you can be fun and free in your personal brand. You're not, trying to hide stuff or anything like that. But you don't have to choose a lane. That's the dynamic part of it. You're, like I said earlier, you're not just a professional, and you're not just your position, but like you're a dynamic person with all these stories, with all this professional journey. You must put yourself out there if you want to continue to grow anyways. Speaking of the blend, how do we get these things to talk to each other?
It is an art. It
It
truly is
is.
an art because, it's not easy. But I included this example of, if people aren't aware of Michelle, she started a company called B2B Growth. She is a creator on LinkedIn, has a podcast. She also wrote a book called the LinkedIn Branding Book and kind of coined this term, the power of two. So she really highlights how what we've been talking about, really everything we've been talking about, of utilizing your personal brand and your company page to work together. And she calls out that it creates new opportunities, builds trust, and then drives results that neither can achieve alone. So if you're really interested in this, especially if you're kind of balancing those two, then highly recommend looking into this book and also just following Michelle in general. She has great sound
Yeah.
advice. But yeah, she it just shows that there is kind of a framework to support the idea that we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's so good. Definitely check her out. Follow her. Get the book. So much great advice is especially if you are in the situation of trying to blend the two.
Mhm. We couldn't do this without a Venn diagram, obviously, because we're talking about the blend of them. So, I think that they are separate B2B brands, personal brands, because they have different goals, right? Whereas, for a B2B brand, you're driving audience action. So a lot of your content obviously is going to have that value at the end, the CTA. We had Ben ask a question, which we'll get to the questions at the end, but he did raise a big question of like, how do you bring value in your personal brand? And we'll touch on that as well. But your personal brand is going to build that individual visibility and credibility. So you're building your own trustworthiness as a thought leader, as an expert, as a industry, leader, and you can bring that value of your insights. And then in talking about kind of customers versus your community, right? Like as a B2B brand, you're gonna really try to nurture these customer relations, whereas a personal brand, you're really trying to nurture those professional relationships and networking. Like you have shown up in comments so much, like that is a perfect way to nurture those relationships. And yeah, how you communicate, like you as a B2B brand obviously want to communicate your product value and your
Yeah.
positioning. And then as a personal brand, that consistent voice and perspective. Obviously, both are going to have perspectives, but obviously, at the end of the day, your B2B brand is going to always be rooted in your product, your solution, your services. Um, Branding, obviously, with any sort of B2B or even B2C, really needs to have consistent messaging, visuals. I don't think it's as common for a personal brand to have a logo and to have colors. And if so, that's great. That might drive you more into that kind of business world. Um, yeah, but obviously being a remembered brand comes with that consistent visual. And then finally, just, a B2B brand, you're trying to build kind of that brand equity at scale, well, whereas your personal brand, it's, driving that career equity of, like you said, you're a dynamic professional, not just your title. And then kind of in the middle, there's these just themes that both overlap. So you're trying to build trust and credibility with both. Both need that connection to build that trust. Really, you need to stay consistent to be remembered. Storytelling is how you're going to help be remembered, and then overall, like your reputation, right? Because you mentioned of posting on your personal brand and showing up with integrity and touching base with where you work and saying, hey, I'm going to start building my personal brand.
Yeah.
But if you go on LinkedIn and start like, excuse my French, but like shit talk your brand and be like, oh, my job sucks, I hate this, then like you're building that reputation for yourself that you don't really love where you work and you don't support the company and you don't feel super proud, and that's going to leave kind of a negative reputation of like, well, why are you working here and why are you posting about it,
Yeah,
um
exactly. Yep.
yeah,
And
sorry, kind
that follow like the
of.
process. No, I mean that's good because like um that also speaks to like the not just the integrity side, but of like if you're like you said, being out there and just complaining or putting out negative comments or just negative narratives, um, you're the one saying that, right? No, it doesn't matter what brand you're saying it about. You're the one saying that, so it's going to follow your personal. You might be saying like, "Oh, that brand just, didn't treat me well or things like that. Understood. But I feel like there is a place for that. And if you aren't aware that that will carry to your personal brand, because now they're going to see that as, oh, that's what this person does, right? And then you're thinking like, oh, jobs see that, and your next move might see that, whatever it may be. So there is just a level of awareness on your voice. I'm not saying you have to shrink your voice, but I'm saying be intentional how you use your voice.
Yeah.
Some examples of the power of two. All right, so I threw this post up here because so one, it was a trend. Two, using using obviously we know like LinkedIn was like the place to celebrate, the place to put up our announcements. And so when people started doing this and using the announcement banner but then using their personal to do it, it was actually a mix, right? Because the banner itself triggers, oh, okay, maybe they got a new job, maybe it's an anniversary, whatever. But then you throw in your personal. I felt like this was a way that mixed. Even mine here, I took on this trend, but I even made it more personal to myself, because I said I'm thrilled to announce that I have survived 2025, but barely surviving, because at that time I was actually going through potty training with my youngest. And so like that just reached so many parents. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many parents come in and like, oh man, good luck, and this is what we did. And once again, going back to their personal standpoint of like, I'm a parent. So it was a way I connected with them. But then through that, they connected with my personal brand because of that commonality.
Yeah. Yeah, my example here is, so I work on a lot of the event side, so sponsorships, and we sponsored an event back in September. It's called the Realies. It's a social media award show, and we got an award for best sponsor ever. And I actually received this package from Manu, who's the founder of your social team, who puts on the event. And it was just such a special moment to receive this in at my doorstep, for on behalf of our brand, but, sent to me as kind of the organizer and the person that was behind the scenes. And I think it just shows that, one, I'm really proud of our company for, being the best sponsor ever or whatever, like it, but it, nods to my work behind the scenes and another creator that we had at the event live, Latasha. So all of this kind of culmination of working together and supporting each other, I think for me, it was just a cool shout out to be like, hey, look, this was my work, but also this was at large our team's overall work and vibe. And we're trying to go into the new year with kind of that best sponsor energy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That is awesome. The top one here, as you probably can see, um,
I
full
still
on personal.
have.
Oh, I love that. I love that though. That is so cool to receive that, honestly.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a nice reminder on my desk for sure.
it's like toot toot to my horn.
Yeah.
Um, the other example I put up here, like I was saying, is completely personal. I mean, this is actually an instance where I was about to make a comment, and this was just in a time that everyone was talking about touching the grass. Like it was just like, man, everywhere, every post was about touching grass, and I'm like, my goodness. Um, and so this was a reaction, actually a reaction to a post, and it was about to be a comment. And I decided to take the comment down and use it as a post. So there are instances where like I know that I react, the purest form of who you are is sometimes your reaction. And so
Mhm.
there's times that when I'll see a post and I get ideas from that post and I'm about to make a comment, and I'll take that comment and make it into a post instead of leaving it as a comment itself. And that's just a really quick and simple way you can make more content, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a great way to show your personality as well.
Some of those like one-liners and random thoughts, random post ideas that come to you at 11 p.m. while you're laying in bed or you're sitting on the couch or you're talking with a friend, like some of those I have another example later, but those are the ones that hit the hardest and usually perform the
Yeah.
best because they are so rooted in your voice, and it's easy for us to second guess ourselves and be like, is this even something worth posting? And I've caught myself being like, no, I'm not going to post that because maybe it's not funny enough, or maybe it doesn't have a big enough kind of perspective, but just proof that it does really resonate with people when you just kind of are like, I'm gonna fire it off. I'm gonna do
Yeah, no,
it.
seriously. Seriously, I that is my mindset all the time now. Because this, I mean, this post right here for me was like very a lot earlier on, than me being more established, in my personal journey or whatever. And like, I posted it and I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? Honestly, and people like ate it up, and it was literally just the sarcasm in my personality, right? And that's like so natural for me. So I was just like, I didn't know how people would take that, especially on a platform like LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think it comes with confidence and also with that kind of bravery that were brave enough and courageous enough to post it. And, like I kind of said of when I posted the posting on LinkedIn is cringy. And it's
Yeah.
that I'm gonna post it anyways because I feel confident in my voice and my experience, and I don't need to kind of have that stamp of approval from anyone else.
You got my sound.
Thank you.
You are good, dude. All right, so follow or not. So in this section, we're actually just kind of talking about whether or not we should chase trends. And then a little in a couple minutes we will talk about buzzwords and things like that. But this one is trend chasing. So there is some instances where, like, I mean, going with the trend, it blows up, right? It works well, it meshes well with your voice, it meshes well with the brand, and that's great. But you do need to have going back to those content pillars or even filters, you could call it, that
Mhm.
kind of assess whether this aligns with your brand principles. Will it align with your audience? How can you make it align with your audience? Because in a lot of instances, memes, they're great, as long as you make that caption and the wording itself fit your audience, right? If you just take it for what it is, then it might not connect, it might not align with what you already put out there.
Yeah.
And here are a couple that honestly took off. You got Gong here, you got HubSpot, and I think the other one is Gong as well. But they were relating to AI salespeople because they use AI note taking. Got a second to huddle. Obviously, they're speaking to marketers in just a work environment of getting that message or Slack, that tension of last minute meetings, which a lot of people can relate to. And here you can see HubSpot jumped on the trend with the phone. Saw you in the dream last night. Did I have an APS score above 60? No, wasn't me. They were very, very much so gearing it to their audience. And if you do anything with a meme, obviously it is the best to gear it to your audience. I'm not against memes. I'm not a personal um meme builder myself. I don't use memes a lot in my own content, but I do understand the use of them because
Mhm.
they do bring a commonality. And it opens up to see that, like, oh, like all of these people are actually getting to have the same experience, and you can use that to almost gauge your audience, honestly.
Yeah. It just shows too that the brand gets it. They get, what their audience struggles with on a day to day, or, the kind of pain points they experience. It just shows that they understand and they get it too. And, that they're kind of on your same wavelength, rather than just being, out of touch or kind of not posting about these kind of pop culture moments. I think it's important too when we talk about trends, like people are so obsessed with them and being like, do they work? Do they not? And it might
Yeah.
not drive a ton of business results. You know what I mean? It's probably going to be more visibility, more of that, humor and connection, and like I said, that kind of understanding of like, oh, the brand gets it, but it might not drive,
1,000 leads.
yes, exactly. So I think it's important if you are a B2B brand to kind of understand, you know, when to post that and those expectations.
Yeah, and even on that, and in what you were saying, it is very important to remember that a brand is built, right? You're not going to have this like overnight, right? You're not going to get on LinkedIn and be like, oh, wonderful, I got, 15,000 followers or whatever it is your goals may be. It's all very progressive. Even building your voice is very progressive. Blending them is very progressive. And I say that because even for me, I've been learning as I built, right? It hasn't been like I just showed up and boom, I knew everything. It was I learned as I built. Now, obviously, I think something we sometimes overlook is like we have the skills usually on the marketing side, but we just tend to not use it on our personal side. So that I mean, I think that crossover is very good as far as like strategy, as far as like targeting your audience. Use those skills that you have.
Yeah.
You have obviously have those skills for a reason, but it's okay to use them on your personal side as well. Um, Jumping over to buzzwords, obviously you guys have seen them, probably have used them. I know I have definitely have. AI has definitely used them. I think be careful with buzzwords, especially on the personal side, because like things like authenticity, vulnerability, you don't always have to say those things,
Mhm.
right? Like you can just kind of do it, and when you can show up and consistently do it, then people will feel that.
Right.
That goes into the almost that vibe connection we talked about, that emotional connection. Um, so you don't have to, create a post saying, "So to be authentic, blah blah blah." No, just be authentic. Just choose to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know a lot of the corporate brand words, slash AI brand words as well now. Optimizing, streamlining, simplify it, make it human. Even in a B2B brand, make it human. Even in this space, be aware of who you're speaking with. And I say that because I know, and for my corporate side, I speak to a lot of decision makers, right? And so they may be thinking that way, and I might have to speak that way to some degree. So I still think like being aware of your audience is very important. Like the audience, my personal brand is not necessarily the same audience as my B2B brand, but they can support each other through the trust and connection that is built.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with buzzwords, we're all going to use them at some point, but it's
Mhm.
just the being aware of, like you said, yeah, maybe you don't need to include that word if you have that feeling of, oh, like, I feel like, you know, oh, I'm using optimize again, or I'm using, oh, level up, or I'm using strategy again. What are other words that, like you said, to make it just more human and show up and reinforce those ideas without directly using those words? Because then sometimes people see it and they're like, oh, that doesn't connect with me as much as if you were to maybe talk in just a normal way that you normally would show up and speak.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I got a quick short story real quick.
Yeah.
So yesterday it's so funny because my wife called me out on this. So yesterday, I was speaking to my 5-year-old, right? And I forget the exact word I said, but my wife looked at me and she was like, "Who do you think you're talking to?" And I use like corporate speech talking to my 5-year-old son, right? And then my wife was like I was like, "Oh, sorry, business brain." And I realized like sometimes that corporate speak can either one or the other can take over,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's where that blend, but also that switch and being aware of who are you talking to. Now, obviously, I was talking to my 5-year-old son, so he wasn't, at the time he was the one I was speaking to, but like that reminded me that if you're switching, having to switch obviously from brand to personal, and those voices are different, be aware of your audience. There is a mix, and I said that mix can be progressive as far as like in the comments, and the style and the formatting that you post with, breaking down the words and
Mhm.
just showing that explanations versus using the buzzword itself.
Yeah. It's okay to talk like you're talking to a 5-year-old sometimes.
I mean, sometimes I do.
Yeah. I mean, especially for a B2B business in AI tech space where some of the terminology might be really overwhelming and confusing to someone that is looking for a service, but they're not really understanding, like, like you said, breaking down those words and explanations in ways that could make sense to a 5-year-old.
AI. All right, talking about a little AI. Obviously, we know AI is a hot topic. Man, you talked about this one. So for me personally, I've only used AI in systems and AI in ideation, um, and that's more so obviously my like content brainstorming, where I've had an idea and I'm like, what about this? And then it spits something out. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, most of what it spit out to me I have not liked.
Mhm.
But I've taken it and be like, okay, well, I see there was a point maybe a point in there that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that though, right? And so I've taken my own voice and maybe called address that point, and it's helped kind of refine some of my posts and some of my content. Now, heavily for me, AI is obviously on the automation side as I work with email strategy and things as well. And then also with reporting, I'm doing some AI reporting as well. And how are you using AI right now?
So I use it a lot for content brainstorming. Or even to the refinement piece of like, I use, Grammarly and other kind of spell check just day to day,
Mm.
but just for that refinement. But sometimes when I ask it of like, oh, can you, check for grammar or spell check or whatever, then it changes it. I'm like, no, 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 but I didn't want you to change the sentence structure. So I feel
Right.
like for me, it's so much of brainstorming and ideation. Or even like I actually created a meme about there's like a common like little character that's like this is who you're asking to work 40 hours a week, and I wanted to
Oh, okay. Yeah.
for taxes because I've been filing taxes, and like I think it's something we can all relate to of like I don't know, I'm just a girl. I'm not working in the I don't know how to file taxes myself. But I did ask AI, can you get rid of the text that said like this is who you're asking to work a 40-hour week and change it with the caption that inserted. So it can be really useful. But yeah, should never replace your, should never be kind of a copy and paste.
Yes. Please do not copy and paste. Put yourself in there. AI is definitely okay to use, but be aware of it.
Mhm.
As far as because you still want the voice to be yours. And I know something I did think about when we talked about Annie was that um from the perspective, if you're a single founder, right? If like your personal is yours, your business is all yours, and you're creating all that content, I would encourage you to use AI for ideas, maybe even assess what you've already put out there. You know what I mean? Just for like ideas for if you don't always have that time to have a content engine, right? But take that and put it in your own voice, put it to your experience and your perspective, which will make it yours. Don't just like Annie said, don't copy and paste it. We know, we see, we are not in.
But of course, I'm going to have an example of one that I don't think I copied and pasted, but I
Mhm.
did use AI really heavily. So on the far right, I wrote a blog article that was about just like holiday strategies, and I wanted to amplify that mention that we had with Metricool, and highlight that hey, we wrote this article, it was published in Total Retail. But, personally, it was one of those things where maybe I didn't feel as, what's the word, excited maybe to post about it because so I was just like, but I want to get this post out. And I used AI more heavily on that, only got 2 likes on that because I think people just kind of knew, like, it's more or less kind of boring. Like, I can agree that not my best work because it wasn't
Mhm.
fully written in my perspective. And then, the one in the center, completely different, vibes. And also the other one was from like, further away. It was around the holidays, and then this one was so. Anyways, but this one was one I actually scheduled on accident, but because I was just like, oh,
Love
I'm going to save it in my drafts, and then I accidentally scheduled it, which is something I think that a lot of social media managers can relate to. But I said, what are your favorite social media platforms? And me works in social media, calling out to people that work in social media, that are on social media every day, that are expected to know and, be like, oh, Instagram, TikTok. I'm like, no, I'm on Spotify all the time. I'm on Goodreads, Java, Substack, Reddit. I am off, after work. It's exhausting to be on social media
it.
all day and try to keep up with trends, and get lost in kind of a scroll or find an example that I'm highlighting that and making fun of that and being like, actually, some of my favorite social media apps are ones that aren't even really social media apps that are. So that got a lot of reaction, and a lot of people were just like, we want, a lot of people resonated with that, and so it just showed that again, those off the cuff comments and posts that you think in your head really perform a lot better than AI.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good, honestly. The one I shared here actually is a mix of me and AI. You
Mhm.
might be able to look at it and know that because like the whole overshare territory is not something I would probably say in my natural speech.
Yeah.
But so it was a community focused post that I wanted to get. I just wanted to get people talking. A lot of my personal brand leans into starting conversation, getting people talking in the comments. Even the language I use is very much so direct and conversational because that's just a part of like my brand and I've leaned into that. But this here, chat spit out something and I was like, okay, let me change some pieces. Obviously that like the idea itself was mine, but like some of the not full on overshare territory yet with the emoji was completely chat. But the whole go on surprise me, share a fun fact about like that was me. So it was a mix of AI and me kind of working through that. And as you see, I mean, it got 414 comments. So I really leaned into getting those that conversation and getting to know people. I use this as a way to actually get to know a lot of my connections,
Mhm.
things outside of once again playing outside of like you're just a professional. And that's a great way to find avenues, engage where your audience is, who they are as people, and then like I said, eventually move into um, the benefits of helping each other and partnering and stuff like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, we have a few minutes for some questions or comments. I've started a few that were asked. So let me pull up Ben's question, which I think is a great question of how do we make sure we're bringing value when we're building our personal brand on social media? I don't know if you want to
Hmm.
take this one.
A really good question. I would I could answer that with a question. I would be like, because I guess there's the instance on which like I think about to like content pillars, like what kind of value do you want to bring,
Yeah.
right? Especially as a personal brand, like I think it goes back to answering the question, do you want to just educate? Do you want to move people towards community? Do you want to be a person that like people come to for technical questions? Do you want to be like where like it's almost like going into like how do you want to position yourself and what value do you want to bring? So for me, and I can speak on my brand, it's that I want to motivate people, I want people to laugh, and I want people to feel good about themselves and build connection.
Mhm.
And so I'm always like with that, that's why I speak so direct and so conversational because my language is like, I'm speaking to you as a friend. Like
Right.
this is how I talk to my friends, right? Like, so people start to feel like they know me, they trust me, like I'm almost like a safe space on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, because of that. So it's like it is what value do you want to bring? So when you define that, I feel like I could get more, obviously more into specifics if you have like a defined personal brand yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, we talked about voice versus vibe, but I think it goes back to the vibe that you want people to leave with. How do you want people to feel when they engage with your content or see your page? I think that, is really important. Like you said, you want to motivate people. Yeah, for me, like I want to be a safe space people can come to. I'm really empathetic, so I want to, be like, I hear you, I see you, I know that
Yeah. Good.
working in tech and social media is challenging. Yeah. So what vibes? What are the vibes you want to the table? Okay, we
Really
have
good
a
question.
question from Christina. Um, how do you know how to respond to comments and show your personality? As I tend to overthink what to say, so I make it generic. Like, thanks, love it. Yep.
I've been there. I've been there. I've definitely been in that place where not that I'm necessarily overthinking, but like maybe I've replied to a lot of comments and I'm might just be tired of replying to comments. Honestly, I think though foundationally, as far as how to respond to comments, I think it depends. It does depend on where the comment is. So if it's the comment that is on your post or your content, I think the vibe is what did you put out there, right? And so I'm looking at first of all, I start to learn. You start to learn some of your audience, especially the ones that consistently show up. So I understand like their vibe and who I'm talking to, like that the personal connection. So I think that knowing, I keep saying vibe, but like knowing the vibe of what the content you put out and then how they're responding. I don't think you have to overthink it. I feel like you can have a framework that even your comments would fit a certain content pillars, right? Because like even in my comments, I'm either being funny, sassy, or I'm uplifting people. And I love to diversify my comments. So I'm not always being funny, but I'll do something that's more intellectual because of the post. I'll do something that's more sarcastic because they were already making fun of something.
Mhm.
So I kind of fit in line with the vibe of the post itself. But I mean, yeah, put yourself out there. I encourage you because I know it's easy to overthink. I had to build that up. I had to build up that confidence. It wasn't like overnight that I just became the comment king, but
Yeah. I was gonna say for this one, there are gonna be some times where you're like, I just can't even think and but I want to respond to this person. And it's not the end of the world if you do say like thank you or thanks, love it. Like obviously that might not, you know, have as much remembrance as a really, you know, kind of personality driven comment. But those ones that I think it's hard to not overthink and easy to just be like, don't overthink. But
yeah, yeah, it's easy to say for
in
sure.
those moments when there's natural responses, when you're like, oh, I know exactly what to say to this person, then run off of that. Just go for it. Um, yeah, or even say if you do say something like thanks, then add another little personal anecdote to it. Be like, if if you posted something of a win and someone's like, wow, great job, and you're saying thanks, oh, like, yeah, was up all night or not really, but was like been working on this for 2 weeks or a month, like can't believe it's over. Add that personal anecdote and element of like again the behind the scenes, the work you did, maybe making fun of it and being like, I've lost like I'm getting gray hairs, like whatever it is, just play on that personality and your own experience or that kind of anecdote.
Yeah. Also, before you don't feel the pressure to have a perfect comment every single time.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't have to be a mind-blowing response.
Yeah. Okay, another question. Do you have a favorite resource that keeps you in the loop for trends, social media updates, marketing industry news?
That is a good one. Man, I have a couple different resources. I do, and if I guess it depends on what for. I have a couple newsletters that I actually open and read. I know I use HubSpot as a resource a lot of their content, and then I want to say there are a couple people that I follow their newsletters. They do social updates really, really well. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I could definitely send those your way because there are people that do like great social updates that I
Yeah,
tend to follow more than I guess more than a company type of deal.
for sure. I was gonna say that. I mean, sounds super, generic, like go on LinkedIn. But if you do spend enough time on LinkedIn and network with people in your industry, for example, I've connected and collaborated with Dakota Ray Lowe. She has a Substack. It's called Recreation. She
Okay.
does a great job of social media updates in a very I'm Gen Z, so in a very kind of young perspective and what popular brands and consumer brands are doing. So yeah, and also Metricool does have a newsletter. We have weekly
Ooh,
news, marketing news, so it's free to subscribe. Gotta plug it.
no, that's
Okay,
good.
Christina's going off. Another one from her. If you have your own business and want to grow your personal brand, what or how should you prioritize it? I think just starting, create realistic expectations for yourself because we've talked about consistency. But, you know, it's easy to be like, I want to grow my personal brand. I need to post every day. That might not be realistic for you. Maybe start with one post a week and start scheduling that out and start, building that over time. Like you said, Anthony, it's going to take time. You're going to continue to learn. And as you continue to grow and learn what your personal brand voice is, then again, really emphasize that and share your learnings, share what you've learned about yourself and about how you run a business.
I would say I would prioritize looking at like what are you already do very well,
Hmm.
right? Like what is, I don't know, what are some, maybe just some commonalities you want to connect with your audience before you even really start, I guess, posting. Um and I guess that goes back to like those subsets of content. What about you? You know what I mean? Like what about me? What do I want to share? What value do I want to bring? Because I mean, I'll be honest, early on, sometimes you can't feel the pressure to post and put things out there, and you'll put stuff out there and it'll feel random, it'll be random, and then next thing you know, I don't know, 6 months later, you found your actual flow and what you really wanted to post on. So I mean, I think taking some time to think about what value you want to actually bring and what is your goal and make it realistic as far as your personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question from Mark. What is the science behind your hooks? Do you have a framework you follow, or just come up with ideas off the dome? Great question.
uh um the science behind my hooks. All the science is in my brain. I'm not going to give that away. Um no, but seriously, so because I like to, all of my everything is conversational with me. Um I pause, and I've talked to someone about this, that I take pauses, and that's usually how I format it. So it can be a full sentence, but like I'll break it off where it would make you lean in, right? So you have to click to want to know what it is. What am I going to say? And at this point, I've kind of built that reputation for it. So I'm not gonna lie. At this point, I do feel some pressure to keep up a good hook. Um, but it's usually me writing out my content and then put in those spaces where I feel like it's almost like the cliffhanger.
Yep.
But most of them, yeah, they do. The content usually is off the dome. I'm just separating where I feel like where it drops into something else, which I kind of find out by actually saying it myself.
Yeah. Okay, great questions, y'all. I'm just going to run through, we've talked about managing your personal brand, your B2B brand. And if you are looking for a space to have a centralized platform, then you, like we talked about, this is going to help you stay consistent strategically. So for those of you who maybe aren't aware of Metricool, it's a scheduling, analytics, management software. So the power of scheduling, I know that some people are like, oh, does it really, help? But if you start to get in a consistent flow of, maybe scheduling one post a week for a month, then, right there, that allows you to have a month worth of visibility. Maybe you can pop in some other posts, but then you can kind of get back to what matters. You can, have more time for that creative freedom, avoiding last minute changes, and then tracking that performance in real time and looking at the data. Okay, what has really worked well? That just gives you more direction. So for the next time, it's not as hard to dig in deep in your brain because you can look
Yeah.
at what has already really worked well and resonated with your audience. And then with our tool as well, you can track your competitors. So this is really important to find those gaps in the market, in your industry, and also what's performed best for your competitors. Which channels are they active on? How is their audience responding in comments? What kind of formats and topics are they talking about? What is their messaging style? This is super, super crucial as you're trying to position yourself in the market as a B2B brand, or even as just a personal brand. And then finally, like I said, analyzing performance in real time and data is so crucial for making more confident decisions, being able to kind of pivot in real time, staying consistent across both voices. Um, in today's marketing sphere, it's really essential and will allow you to just have more confidence, and also look at the real numbers, and instead of having a million tabs open and going to LinkedIn analytics and then Instagram, right? Like have a centralized place to save time and to have that data on hand. That is just a super, super quick overview of the tool, and also specifically things that you can get in the advanced in our premium plan. So for all of you who are still here, who have made it, who have stuck around for an hour and 15 minutes, this QR code does have a 30-day free trial. And also it has today's presentation linked. It also has a link to the LinkedIn branding book by Michelle that I shouted out earlier, and then a link to sign up for our newsletter if you're interested. So this offer ends this week, March 5th. So if you are looking for a new tool, trying to juggle multiple brands, then our premium plan allows you to have up to 15 brands to manage. So even if you want to like check out your clients' data and analytics and start scheduling for them, then now is the perfect time. But yeah, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. It was such a delight. I'm excited to stay connected with you. Everyone in the comments, thank you guys for being here. If you haven't connected with us on LinkedIn, always happy to keep the conversation rolling. And yeah,
Yes, yes.
hope you
Thank you,
guys
guys.